Yo, what up, a-holes? Thank you for tuning in to the Holistic A-Hole podcast. My name is Eric Levi, and I'm the Holistic A-Hole. How the hell are you doing today? I hope you're having a great day wherever you are listening to this right now. If you are listening to this and you're a returning listener, thank you so much for coming back. Glad you took the advice and subscribed to the podcast, and now you're listening to it just like I predicted you would. And if you're new to the podcast, just take a hot second, hit the subscribe button right there on your phone or your listening device. Most likely gonna be a phone. Call me crazy, but I'm just playing the odds here that you're probably listening to this on a phone of some sort. So just dive into your podcast, Apple podcast player, your Android, Castbox, or Stitcher, or Spotify, or whatever you're listening to this on. Hit the subscribe button. That way you get these podcasts popping up in your podcast feed every Tuesday and Friday when they come out. And while you're in the old subscribing mode, head on over to the Holistic A-Hole YouTube page and subscribe to my channel, as I am releasing videos once a week, and I might even crank that up to a couple times a week. And then if you're just feeling like, how can I get so much more of the Holistic A-Hole and not miss out on any of this great stuff, go to the Instagram, find Holistic A-Hole, holistic_A_hole. Go check out my photos, my vids, keep up with me, shoot me a screenshot of you listening to this in your feed, and then tag me on Instagram, tag a holistic picture of some sort, you doing yoga, you going for a jog, you eating some arugula green salad, you making a green smoothie, or you just being a fucking wild holistic animal. Take a picture, tag the old Holistic A-Hole in it, and then go check out my Twitter at Holistic A-Hole, and then of course Facebook, for what it's worth anymore, Holistic A-Hole. So those are the plugs. But today what I want to talk about is something I've actually been, thinking a lot about recently, which is reticular activation. Now, that is a big word. That's a big word, big phrase for even this holistic a-hole. I couldn't imagine what some of you other a-holes are going through trying to process such big verbiage into your giant holistic brain. But basically, the long and short of it is, and just a heads up, I am not a neuroscientist. I am not a doctor. Please don't take anything I'm saying here as medical advice or real medical jargon. I'm just a dude who nerds out on health stuff, and I want to spread the message to as many people as I can. That being said, my understanding of what reticular activation is basically this phenomenon in your brain that your brain essentially chooses the things to focus on out of all the stuff that you're taking in through all of your different senses, your eyes, your ears, your nose, all the stuff around you. I mean, it's pretty amazing to think how much information your brain processes at one given time. Even if you're just, standing, standing in line at a grocery store, and I mean, just think about all of the stimuli coming in to your brain. I mean, you got the sight of the line you're in, all the people, all the end cap goodies, the cashier, the people behind you, all the store behind you, the memories of the store you just walked through. Then, of course, the sounds, all the people talking, people playing music, the store music, which is usually, some light rock, very sad, depressing breakup music. You got, if it's a seasonal thing, you got let's say it's Halloween, you got all the Halloween decorations, or St. Patrick's Day decorations, or 4th of July decorations. If it's Easter time, you got all the Easter bunny, all the Easter eggs, what are those fucking marshmallow Cadbury eggs. And then, of course, the smell of the grocery store. You smell all the food. You smell the stinky people around you. You smell your own, your own scent, if you can smell that. Then the feel, the touching stuff, you're holding something, you're pushing a cart. There's a lot that your brain is taking in at once. And of course, you're not experiencing everything all at once. You're only experiencing a little bit at a time. I believe the number is somewhere in the millions, right? The amount of information or pieces of data that your brain is trying to process at any one given time. Again, no matter where you're at. And essentially what your reticular activation system does is it filters all of that and says, here are the things that we are noticing. So if you're standing in line at a grocery store, and again, you're taking in all these bits of data, maybe one of the few things that you're noticing is the sad music they're playing. Maybe they're playing, like some Hall & Oates, She's Gone, and that just makes you think of like the girl you just broke up with, or, just feeling lonely, right? Maybe you're noticing that music because you just went through a breakup and you're like, holy shit, man, this music is so spot on, right? Or maybe, you're trying to lose weight and you're standing in line at the grocery store and then you start noticing the fucking candy bars, right? You notice the Snickers, the Butterfinger, the Milky Ways, the Skittles, whatever crazy ass, fucking candy bars they got there nowadays. My reticular activation system has been so not focused on candy bars for so long. I can't even tell you what candy bars are at the end caps in grocery stores. So you can see that, and basically what this is it's like it's a neural system, right? It's a series of, I think, neurons and membranes and fucking nerve endings and all this shit that that's in your brain. And I believe the system itself functions at the base of your brain. So it's like you're taking probably pretty close to your hypothalamus, which means I believe where all the hormones are released. So you're getting some interaction probably there too, where it's like you're not just getting the senses, but you're getting the feeling. And when you combine the feeling and the senses together, that's a powerful mixture. It's a powerful concoction of just stuff to react to. So your reticular activation system is essentially the filter in your brain that's like, okay, we're gonna notice this and we're not gonna notice that. It's like I think an even better example is like when you're gonna go buy a car, when you need to buy a new car, and you've spent a lot of time like looking at cars. And maybe you're like, okay, I think I got it down to like 2 cars, right? You're like, I'm going to get like either a Honda Civic or I'm going to get a Chevy truck, right? Little fun fact, both vehicles of which I have once previously owned. But now as you drive down the road and you got all these cars around you, the 2 cars you're going to notice more than anything else. You're going to notice all the Honda Civics and you're going to notice all of the Chevy trucks. And it's crazy when that happens because all of a sudden you're like, holy shit, has there always been this many Chevy trucks and Honda Civics on the road? Like I've never noticed this many Chevy trucks before. And then it's just going to hit you like a ton of bricks. Like, oh my God, a lot of people have Chevy trucks, especially if you know the color you want. If you want like a red truck, you're going to be like, oh, you're going to just start noticing all the red trucks. You'll be like, wow, there's a lot of red trucks. I didn't know there were this many red trucks. That's reticular activation. It's basically now that you've tuned your brain into essentially obsessively thinking about this one thing, now you notice it nonstop. Right? It's pretty shocking, It's such like a interesting subconscious, conscious, thing where it's like you are consciously training your subconscious to notice stuff in your consciousness, So this is like essentially I really believe that this is what is going to separate somebody from failing or succeeding at something, It's and we should be teaching this more than just like, hey man, set goals, Just set your goals or just dream about the things you want, because basically what people are telling you is to set your reticular activation to something specific you want so that you only kind of subconsciously teach yourself to think about that in a certain way. So, like, for instance, if you're walking around and you're sad and you're depressed, this is the problem with depression, by the way. Depression is just a nonstop negative feedback loop where something bad happens, and then you reinforce that by basically making it your fault. You know, you're like, something bad happened, and it's because I'm the reason that happened, and then that kind of will start tuning you to like this negative frequency, and then it's just a spiral down that it's like every single thing that happens is because it's your fault, is because you're a failure, is because you're not good enough. And it just keeps going down and down and down, especially if your diet sucks and you're not getting good food, that's giving you like tryptophan, for instance, which is a precursor to serotonin. If you have a fucked up gut and your gut is not making serotonin to shoot it up into your brain, you're gonna fall into that negative feedback loop, and the reticular activation is just gonna keep reinforcing it and reinforcing it. So not only are you not getting the actual chemical serotonin into your brain, you're also not allowing your reticular activation, or you've programmed your reticular activation to be a default negative thinking process. So your brain and your physical and your non-physical are both in this negative feedback loop, and then essentially that's where you probably get depression or anxiety. And I've been on both those sides, and it's tough. It's tough to pull yourself out. So the thing about reticular activation that I keep thinking about now is, now that I'm a little older, I'm not old. I think I'm hitting my second wind, to be honest with you. I think I'm feeling 21 again. I'm feeling young as shit, and a lot of that is because I have set my focus. I've set my reticular activation on feeling young. More on that in a minute. But my point is, or what I'm trying to say is that I've been thinking about this a lot, because now that I'm a little older, I'm thinking about, like stuff that I've wanted in my life. I wanted to be like a real successful, famous comedian, for instance. And it just hasn't happened. I mean, there's still time on the clock, let's be honest, but it hasn't happened, and I've been in the game for a long time. Obviously, this is kind of a fairly new thing, the holistic a-hole. But as far as doing comedy and trying to be successful in entertainment, I've been at it for a long time at a very low level, and I'm kind of looking back at like, well, why haven't the things happened that I wanted to have happen? And for me personally, what I believe is that I've spent more time thinking about the things that I don't want to have happen than thinking about the things that I do want to have happen. And it's very powerful, like I spent a lot of time, kind of just climbing the ranks here, like in New York and Boston, where I was doing a lot of comedy and doing these open mics and these shitty little bar shows. And I would essentially see failure. You just see failure all around, especially when you come to New York. You come to New York, or if you're in LA, if you're in any of these, two big entertainment cities, this is what people move here for. People move to New York City to be a comedian, to be an actor, to be a dancer, to just be fucking, the top of the world at whatever. But the reality of it is only a small percentage, like a very tiny, tiny percentage of people make it. If you go see a Broadway show, or if you took all of the actors who are working on Broadway now, that is such a small percentage. I mean, we're probably talking less than 1% of the actors, maybe even less than 0.5% of the actors who move to New York City. Definitely less than 0.5%. Definitely probably like 0.1, less than 1.1% of the people who move to New York City to become actors even get one role on Broadway, let alone, having any kind of acting career. They're mostly, serving in some restaurant. Comedians are the same way, all the comedians if you took all the comedians who are making a successful living, and you could define that any which way you want. I say you're making a living doing comedy where you don't have to have like a side job or anything. I mean, we're talking less than 0.1% are actually doing, well at comedy. And that's not to say there's more bad comedians. There's a lot of great comedians who still need a day job. There's comedians who've been on TV who still need a day job. There's comedians who have hit the heights of comedy and then fell back down and need a day job. It's all over the place. But my point is that me personally, like, I've spent a lot of time looking at people's failures, and instead of saying like, I want to be here, I want to be a headliner, I want to be working the Comedy Cellar, I want to be, I want to have an hour of just knockout, drag out, fucking, legendary comedy special, fucking funny comedy set. I've spent more time thinking about, I don't want to end up walking dogs, or I don't want to end up, being a server working 50 hours a week in some, fucking shitty Chili's restaurant or something, Essentially what I did is, instead of focusing setting my reticular activation on only the things I want, I set my reticular activation subconsciously to focus on the things I don't want. And then what happened was I fucking hit that wall. I got exactly the thing that I programmed my brain that I didn't want, and I just use this term, hit the wall, because I think the best example of this is in NASCAR, like in racing. Hey, holistic a-holes, we all know about NASCAR, right? In NASCAR, and granted, I've never participated in NASCAR. I used to have the NASCAR driving video game on the first computer I ever had back in 1994. One of the games we got the flight simulator, and we had the NASCAR game. That's where I fucking got in a NASCAR, because I would just drive on a motherfucking track 500 miles. This would take a day to play this game. I mean, we're talking like, I think like 6 hours or something. I'd be sitting there playing the game, just going in fucking circles. Same thing with the flight simulator. You got to take a flight, from Boston to, from Boston to Denver or something. You got to be on that flight simulator for all 6 hours of that flight. And then you do the 6 hours, and then you try to land, and you just crash because you're a fucking 12-year-old idiot who doesn't know how to fly a plane. Unless it's on a computer in the living room that also has very slow downloaded porn. Anyways, in NASCAR, they have a saying that when you drive, you got to focus on the road, and you don't at all want to look at the wall. Because if the second you look at the wall, the car ends up in the wall, And that's exactly what reticular activation is. If you focus on the road, if you focus on the journey, if you focus on enjoying the process, if you focus on your higher goals, you probably will end up somewhere good. You might not, granted, you might not hit all of your goals. That's a whole other ball game. But if you keep yourself focused, at least you're subconsciously programming your brain to guide you in the right direction. What happens from there, that's up to you. But if you focus on the wall, if you focus on not hitting the wall, if you focus on not crashing, basically what you're doing is you're just putting bad data into your brain, and your brain is like, okay, well, this guy is fucking pointing us straight into the wall. This guy is pointing us straight into being a server at Chili's. This guy is pointing us straight into becoming a dog walker. Even though he says he doesn't want that, we don't, as the brain, know what we want and what we don't want. We just know about the hard data. We're not here to express emotions. We're just here to just put pictures and guidelines and, essentially the code for your life. And you've just told us exactly the thing to focus on. So now, is it any surprise you're a dog walker, or you're a server at Chili's, or, in my case, a tour guide, whatever it is, right? So I think that's an interesting thing I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially when it comes to like you know, especially when it comes to all this holistic stuff, because lately I've been so into yoga and meditation and just trying to program my brain into thinking the right stuff. And in some crazy ways, I feel like it's actually been working, I feel like it's actually been working in the sense that I've my focus has been, for instance, like instead of uh if a situation comes up that's not good, if something comes up and I'm like, God damn it, this is gonna be a shitstorm. Like, I like for instance, I rented a car for a trip I'm taking, and I fucked up the reservation. And there's part of me that's like, I just want to, and it's not like I can just fix it. It's like jumping through hoops and calling multiple customer services, and normally my brain just kind of wants to hit that thing of like, man, I fucked this up. Fucking, it's all shit. I want to punch the wall. I want to throw something at the wall. I want to fucking just, curl up in a ball and be like, fuck me. Fuck this. This is bullshit. But then, what happens is what these different holistic things have taught me is like, no, man, what we're going to do is we're going to just take a breath. We're going to stand still for a second, and we're going to think about how to make this good, how to make this better, how to turn this negative into a positive. That's such a cliche thing, but when you really train your brain to be like, to not to only think positive, but to only think about the things you want and not about the things you don't want, what happens is when things that you want, when you don't want happen, your default mode, your backup, your safety is to be like, oh, no, no, no. We have to make this the thing we want. So we take the raw materials and then we turn it into the thing we want, And it's a multi-phase system, right? It's not even just like, what is my subconscious telling me? It's like, how do I control my breath in this stressful situation, right? How do I get back to just feeling centered? And I think that's incredibly important for anybody. It has nothing to do with your weight or your past or your future or whether you're white, black, female, male, whatever. It doesn't matter. Anybody can do this. Anybody has the power to do this. And it's also amazing to think about, like, when you look at somebody who is actually handicapped. I had, for a long time, had a friend who was, he's handicapped, has no use of his legs or arms, been in a wheelchair basically his entire life. And you talk to this guy, and he's a fun dude, He's a real fun dude. He's a great guy. People love him. You look at people with handicaps like that, and a guy like me who's like, man, like if something like that happened, I don't know how I'd go on. But then people like that, people who are handicapped, they don't think like, oh my God, woe is me. They think like, no, well, this is what I have, and this is what I have to work with. So I have to deal with it. And that's what, if you're an able-bodied person or anybody should think. This is the situation, and this is how I make it right. Because that's what I want. I want it to be right. If you just tell yourself, I'm a failure, I'm fucked up, you're not going to think of the solution because you're going to be too busy essentially confirming what you've already told yourself. I'm a fuck up. I'm a failure. Shit like this happens. And it's no surprise then that all the people, who end up in jail multiple times, or the people who are consistent are always broke, the people who need to borrow money, the people who are, have gambling problems or alcohol problems or drug problems, they're the ones who go down this negative feedback loop, who are like, I'm a failure, I'm a failure, I'm a failure. And you can't ever dig out of it. You can't ever dig out of it until you train your reticular activation system to say, no, I'm a success. And these are the exact things I want. And I'm not going to stop until I get those. And I'm going to enjoy the process of going to that, even if it includes bullshit. Because look, no one's just handing you shit. You have to work for it. You have to love the process of it. So, always just tell yourself, right? This is why meditation is so important again, is because that's the time you take in the day, whether it's 20 minutes, 2 minutes, a minute, just a quick fucking checking on your breath, whatever it is, whatever you do as your meditation practice, it's the only way to really communicate directly to your what is it called? I've been saying it so much. Reticular activation system. It's the only way to tell your reticular activating system that this is the shit that I want you to filter for. You're building the filter. You're stitching the filter, and you're saying, only filter the good stuff. Only filter the red truck. Only filter my success in my job. Only filter finding my girlfriend. Only filter, feeling happy in these situations. Only filter feeling still. That shit is so important. So, people call this goals. People call it visualization. But it's an actual thing in your brain that works, The other thing I like about it is I like the idea of tuning. A lot of people call this tuning. You think about like a radio, like an old radio. Oh my God! I know I have some millennials who listen to this, so you have to understand radios are things that came before iPods. It was a weird time. I don't know how we lived back then. It was like horse and buggies and radios. So, but if you take a radio, and what you do is you have the tuner on the radio. You tune the radio to a station, and then it picks up the frequency in the air, and it plays you whatever that frequency is, whether it's the oldies station or the hot rock station or the NPR station. Oh God, please don't listen to NPR. But whatever you're listening to, and you put that radio tuner on, that dial onto that frequency is going to pick up whatever is in the air. It's the same thing with your reticular activation. If you set your reticular activation tuner to success, it's going to bring you success. If you set your reticular activating system to failure, and you're like, you can visualize the exact failure you want, like if you're a NASCAR driver, you're like, don't hit the wall. Well, guess what? Guess what's playing in your head? The wall. And guess what's going to happen? You're going to hit the fucking wall. This comes in handy, too, when you have to start doing something that you've never done before, It's a crazy phenomenon I also notice in comedy, which is people killing the first time they ever get on stage, That happened to me. That's why I've spent so much time doing comedy, because the first time I ever got on stage, I fucking murdered with just garbage material. And then I've ever since just been trying to chase that dragon, right? And it was hard, For the first time I ever got on stage, I crushed. And then for the next 5 years, I just bombed. But this happens a lot with new comedians because, essentially what happens is you are thinking about comedy so much, and all you know is like what you've seen on TV or in comedy clubs. You only know people killing. Because when a comic's killing, everyone thinks that like, oh, I could do that too. It's such a demeaning art form where, nobody said that to Leonardo da Vinci or to any famous painter, or nobody goes up to LeBron James, and is like, oh, you play basketball really good, man. I could play as good as you. That's what being a stand-up is. When you're killing at stand-up, people walk up to you and then they're like, dude, I could totally do what you just did. And you're like, oh, really? Can you? Okay, sure. Go try. And then they fucking kill. Because all they know is killing. All they have ever seen is somebody killing. They ain't never seen somebody bomb. They're not watching Comedy Central and they're showing, the top 10 bombs. They're not, you're not going on Netflix and then, they're showing videos of people bombing, which I think would be a great Netflix special, by the way. Just somebody eating their balls for an hour, or just a highlight reel of people eating their balls, because every comic has eaten their balls. It's just a part of the process. Some more than others, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're bad. It just means sometimes I've seen every fucking great comedian in person bomb. It's unbelievable. It just happens. But as a new comic, as somebody who's never done it before, you'd never have seen somebody bomb. You've never felt the feeling of bombing. All you know is I'm going to kill. These jokes I got, they're stupid, but they're going to be hilarious. Even if you're nervous, there's just this fucking energy in your body and in your brain that just, transcends an entire room, and you crush, and then you see somebody bomb, and then you start bombing. It's really amazing how it happens. So you want to tune your dial to the frequency that you want to bring in. If you're trying to lose weight, don't think about your diet and think about like, man, this diet will never work. I've tried dieting so much, it never works for me. Dieting is a scam. Keto's a scam. Paleo, they are fucking scams. Vegan's a scam. All this dieting is bullshit. I'm just a fat slob. I'm always going to be fat. And then you just start eating, right? But if you change your frequency and you're like, no, I could totally lose this weight. I could totally get 6-pack abs. I can totally get a chiseled chest. And, when you only have those thoughts coming into your brain, or maybe you're not even like in that sense. You're just like, look, I want to lose 30 pounds. I just want to lose 30 pounds. Or I just want to, I just want to be able to run a mile constantly without stopping. When you set those little markers, when you tune your reticular activating system to be like, these are the things I want, and you don't think about like, man, I fucked up, I failed, I ate chocolate, I ate too many carbs or too much fat or too much protein. When you think about the frequency of good shit, brain's gonna only filter for the good shit. Don't hit the wall, only think about the good shit. And then essentially that's when your world opens up and you become the holistic a-hole that you always wanted to be. So that is really all I have to say about this today, everybody. If you have any thoughts on this topic, reticular activating system, if you're familiar with this concept, if you've seen it work for you, they talk about it in The Secret, the law. Some people call this the law of attraction. If you believe in this sort of thing, let me know. Shoot me some love online. Tweet me your thoughts on the episode. Send me an email, holistic.a.hole@gmail.com. You can shoot me a Facebook message, Holistic A-hole. I'd love to know what you think about this, because I do find this as a very interesting topic that if people explore more, could really open up a lot of possibilities. So, again, if you haven't yet subscribed to the podcast, hit the subscribe button. Go on iTunes, leave a 5-star review if you loved the episode. Leave a little note of love, or just leave the review, whatever works. And then find me on YouTube, Holistic A-hole channel. Subscribe to the channel. Twitter @Holistic A-hole, Instagram Holistic_A_hole. I hope you guys have a great day. Keep on listening. Share the episodes with your friends, the people you love, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.